have to kill all these cows for hamburgers, and then, when we scoop the hamburger out, there's all these leather jackets laying around in the slaughterhouse, so like, we might as well wear them because they're there. It's absolutely not how it works. The meat industry and the leather industry are just like, they're completely intertwined. They're the same industry. They make about 50% of the byproduct value of every cow that's killed is their skin. So basically, if they weren't able to make a profit by selling the skin of the animals as well as the flesh of the animals, these industries wouldn't be able to exist. So basically, there isn't any difference in eating a hamburger or buying a pair of leather shoes in terms of what you're supporting and what it does for this industry. Also, as the picture on the right illustrates, wearing leather makes you look like a huge douchebag. But I don't know why. Okay, there we go. All right. So moving on to wool, which is sort of like the last frontier, I feel like, of animal rights. I was vegan for like 4 years before I even thought about wool. So if you haven't thought about wool just yet, you don't need to feel bad about it, but now is the time to start thinking about it. Sheep who are raised for their wool suffer from the same types of mutilations that we talked about with pigs and cows, where they're castrated, they have their tails cut off, they have their ears notched, etc., all without any painkillers whatsoever. In the Australian wool industry, where most of the world's wool comes from, these animals are left out in the extreme heat and the extreme cold, and many of them die from either of those two things in the summer or the winter. And then there's this procedure, which is known as mulesing, which is basically when they cut huge chunks of flesh off of the animal's backsides without any painkillers whatsoever. This happens to every baby lamb who's raised in the Australian wool industry for the most part, although there are some elements of that industry that's starting to do a little bit better with it. But anyway, and when it comes to shearing these animals and actually harvesting their wool, it's not like you go in for a little haircut and they take a little bit off the back and then they come out and it's fine. They basically take like hedge clippers and run them up and down the side of the animals' bodies. They get stabbed with the clippers, they get cut, they get lacerated. A lot of times these animals' guts will literally be cut out as a result of this procedure. And of course they don't get any medical care, they don't get any stitches, they don't get any painkillers for that whatsoever. They hope that the animals survive so that they can shear them again, but if they don't, the industry doesn't really see that as being a big deal. All right. So real briefly, because I'm running out of time because I ramble on a little bit, entertainment, the entertainment industry, this is basically when animals are being used for humans' entertainment. I use the term loosely. Circuses is like the big area where you see this, and basically tigers in the circus spend their entire lives living in boxcars. They travel about 50 weeks out of the year, and they travel 7 days a week when they're on the road. They come out of these cages for about an hour every day to perform, and then that's it. Other than that, they live in these boxcars on the backs of trains, and that's what their life is like. These are animals who would roam about 2,000 miles in the wild. That's their instinct. That's what they feel like they want to do and what they need to do. And of course, it's extremely frustrating for them not to be able to do that. Elephants are beaten with what's called bull hooks. How many of you guys have ever seen a bull hook before? They're these wooden or metal poles that have a big, huge, sharp metal hook at the end. And they're used to hook on the animals and jab them in the most sensitive areas of their bodies, places like behind their knees, behind their ears, their necks, their faces, etc. Basically, wild animals are not domesticated like cats and dogs are. You can't train them to do treats by giving them train them to do tricks by giving them a treat if they do it well. They don't respond to positive reinforcement. The only reinforcement that they respond to is negative, basically beating them if they don't do it. When animals perform, whether it's in the circus, whether it's in the rodeo, whether it's on TV, they perform out of fear of physical punishment, and that they're going to basically get their asses whooped if they don't do what is asked of them. And they know that because it's been done to them many, many, many times before. Anytime you see an animal performing or doing something that is not a natural behavior for them, and I hate to break it to you guys, but riding around on bicycles and doing headstands is not natural behavior for bears and tigers and elephants and animals like that. Whenever they're doing things that are not natural to them and they're wild animals, they're doing it because they've been physically intimidated and forced to do it. All right. That is it for what I have time for. But I do want to reiterate that, again, this is the Take Action Conference. The reason we talk about all this and the reason we spend so much time at the beginning of the day talking about the issues is not to depress everybody and make you want to go home and kill yourselves. It's to make you want to get out there and do stuff to stop it. And that's what we're going to talk about for the rest of the day today. And so before we move on, I'll take any questions that you guys have about any of the stuff that we talked about. And I guess we can do Ryan's